game number 3 against Drew Hodson, who is playing perhaps burn.
Yep. This is a burn strategy.
Are you familiar with such a thing?
I am.
Your thoughts on its positioning in the metagame now?
Probably slightly worse. A lot more Tarmogoyfs now.
Sure.
A lot more Tarmogoyfs. I would at least expect a lot more Tarmogoyfs.
You see a Monastery Swiftspear and a Grim Lovemancer in play here for Drew, as we do get our deck names and names situated for you guys. And Chris with Thopter Foundry in play currently. You see a Dig Through Time and a Brainstorm in his graveyard along with the Thought Scour.
And 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex in Drew's main deck and 1 in the sideboard, which is all sorts of bad news for a Thopter Foundry-based strategy.
Yeah.
Not a card you want to play against.
Any spice in this burn list? Anything to get you going this morning?
I mean, there's, the 4 copies of Monastery Swiftspear alongside the 4 guides. But no, there is not a lot of fanciness in this list.
There's a Price of Progress from Drew.
And that card is really bad news for Christopher's build here.
Would you say so, with his no basic mana base?
And he has to play 1,000,000 land drops to get all of his stuff going?
Yep.
Yeah. And 1 more point from the old Swiftspear.
Here's a Sword of the Meek.
This is a path for stabilization. If Drew is unable to find a Sulfuric Vortex, this is going to be really hard to power through. So we'll see momentarily how Drew wants to actually progress with this, but he's going to be hard pressed to beat this conventionally.
Spell Snare will take care of the Price of Progress. Don't see that card a lot in the format.
No, a couple copies in the main deck here for Christopher, I believe. And really valuable to have here, because that was, if Drew can get that to resolve, maybe he can push through this thing, but.
Here's a Thopter with the sword, so Chris will gain a little bit of life. And so now this is the combo that we don't get to see a ton of, is now Chris is tapping a lot of mana very quickly. I think he wants to do this while the opponent is tapped out. It's just make a bunch of Thopters and gain some life here.
Yeah, no reason to get too cute here.
Yep.
With this combination of cards in play, Drew, again, he can't, unless he finds Sulfuric Vortex, and even now he's got to find it so fast because Chris is going to be able to turn around and win the game very quickly.
Yeah, this is, I'm going to use the forbidden word here in extended. I know it's like a curse word, but many, many years ago, this was a combo in extended that was very hard for any deck to beat. Zoo, just really any strategy. Dredge, the Mirror, it would kind of take over because you could block Dark Depths. And right now, it's just taking over this game. This combination of cards, Thopter Foundry plus Sword of the Meek, there's a reason you can't do this in Modern.
Yeah, and Drew does not have any copies of Smash the Smithereens or any other interaction for this combo in his deck. So this is just here to stay. I suppose he has relics to offer some utility.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an option. Here's a Chain Lightning. For Drew, it's pretty straightforward. He might try to trick Chris a little bit without the timing of his burn spells, but he's just sending him upstairs. That's all he can do.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Christopher has, he's sitting on Snapcaster plus the Spell Snare in his graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
But doing it this way, means that Drew's going to be able to interact at instant speed, and he might overwhelm Christopher's mana just barely here. I mean, it would take basically the perfect mixture of cards, but Drew might be able to work his way out of this.
Here comes Grim Lovemancer. Chris is going to sacrifice the Sword of the Meek, make another Thopter, gain a life. So he's going to go up to 3 and then down to 1, presumably. This is apparently on the stack here, so the timing is very, very important. Now that will resolve, it seems. Chris kind of shortcutting here. And now there's a copy of Forked Bolt, though that is a sorcery.
Yeah. And I don't even think enough to play over the top
Nope.
anyway. It would leave him a point short.
Yep. You see Chris kind of explaining exactly what's going to happen. So now here is a Forked Bolt. And if you're going after the tokens, that's bad news bears.
Yeah.
So Spear's going to come in. It's going to be pretty large, but you have to imagine there will be a block here by Chris with something to make sure he doesn't take lethal. And then Thopter Foundry plus Sword of the Meek can just simply take over the game, as it's already begun to do. So there are the blocks.
And now Chris gets to sit on the Snapcaster plus the Spell Snare, which cuts off Price of Progress.
There's Caracas. And while a land isn't the most exciting draw, it's actually really what Chris is looking for right now.
Yeah, more mana is fine, assuming that he can cut off the Price of Progress draw from Drew, which he can.
Yep.
More mana just means more life, more Thopters, a faster kill, and you're seeing it on display right now.
Yeah, if you've ever watched these Thopter Foundry Sword of the Meek decks before, when they get into this stage of the game, a lot of the times all they want to draw is land.
Yeah.
Because one land, as you mentioned, is one more life per turn and one more creature per turn to get the game over with.
Now, it's possible Sulfuric Vortex, if Drew draws it exactly this turn, can get him out.
Yeah.
Because Chris goes to 8 if he makes a bunch of Thopters, then down to 6. He still has a lot of Mancer in play. There's spells in the deck that he can draw that deal 4 points of damage. But if it's not Vortex, I think he's out of it.
Looks like Drew's going to go reaching. His draw for the turn was a Fire Blast, so he's able to deal 6 points of damage this particular turn, 2 with the Lavamancer, 4 with the Fire Blast. But again, the combination of Thopter Foundry and Sword of the Meek is just not going to allow him to go over the top, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the conclusion that he's coming to at this point. As Andersen is sitting here rather confidently, and I would be too with this combination of cards against a burn deck.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Christopher knows there's still a mixture of cards that Drew can find over the next couple turns to give him a shot of winning this game, but it's very unlikely. I think Drew here is trying to figure out if there's some way to basically trick Christopher into, you know, tapping out and giving himself a window to deal 6 with the shields down. But anytime Chris commits mana, it's going to be in the process of gaining 1 life. So I don't know if there's a way to do it.
Well, here's a Lavamancer activation. Yep, and Chris is just going to go down to 3. And yeah, he's not even going to make a move because, again, he doesn't have any reason to. So now he'll do this one at a time. Here's a Fire Blast. This is, I believe, with Sword. This actually timing is not bad. So what he's doing here is Chris sacrifices Sword of the Meek. We're going to take a look here exactly how this works. And he's saying yes with Fire Blast to the stacks. Now this will come back. And it is a little timing sensitive in exactly how all this stuff works.
Legacy Open players.
Yeah, I did, but if Drew's making those kind of exchanges, there's not anything to be done here.
Yeah, the issue here is that, you know, can Drew ever time his Fire Blast appropriately to get the job done? And the answer is just continuously going to be no.
Right.
So that is going to do it, and Chris Andersen is going to win this match here over Drew Hodson, 2-1. Thopter Foundry will take care of Burn. And the Thopter Foundry necklace, we didn't get to put a lot of attention on it as we joined to game number 3 in progress. As you see, Chris is sideboarding out a Baneslayer Angel, a card Burn loves playing against.